How long do you want to live? I mean, dead at 68 is quite an early age. I don't want to die that early. I want to live until I'm in my late 90s, get as much out of my pension and out of the government as possible. But that led me to think I was getting quite stiff, and you know, I was concerned about my lifestyle, and like a lot of us when we get older, really have these thoughts about our future and our life expectancy. All right, so I thought, can you influence, you know, your life expectancy, or do you just have to deal with the cards you've been dealt? So that led me to ponder, and I looked across the internet, and I stumbled across 3 research papers. Forgive me, I've got some notes down here. If you see me glancing down, that's why. So these 3 research papers, they're all quite modern, sort of in the last sort of decade. So one of them was a prestigious university in America, and it followed the guys, the alumni. I think the Americans call it alumni. And basically, it followed them from university right up until their passing, their death. Another study was from nurses that obviously looked at people's health. They obviously got a first-hand experience. They see it every day. And they wrote their study. And then the last one was like a women's institute or some sort of big women's group that focused on postmenopausal women. So, and they again were for a long span of time, over a broad demographic of people, I guess. So the findings are as expected. You know, the usual story emerges: keeping fit and active, low stress, eating healthy, those kind of things. But what surprised me was the results of the postmenopausal women study. All right, and the connection with early onset of dementia and other brain debilitating diseases. And I've worked in a care home, and I've worked in an elderly care home, and I've seen it, but I never really connected the two together, that you can have an influence. You can't 100% say for certain that you'll never get anything like that, and you can't 100% for certain not stop it happening. But you can definitely have an impact on the risk factor of weighing things up. So that was really surprising to me. All right, so the direct correlation with mental stimulation, okay? Also community engagement and family. And I remember in the care home, we had very few families coming in. Very few families would be active, involved and engaged. I know people have to work, and I know people have got busy lives, and you know, things take over. But being connected with your family is obviously evidence to the connection it is with staving away dementia and other other diseases that have a debilitating effect on the brain. Now, as you know, I've been in another country for a few years, and in Asia, a lot of the families live together for a lot longer. That bond is kept together. They generally stay in the same house. Maybe like the oldest and the second oldest would move out with a big financial help from the parents and the family and everybody else. But the youngest ones would normally slowly inherit the house, and they would look after the grandparents and then the parents, and then obviously it becomes their house and the cycle begins again. My point is, in Asia and Eastern Eastern countries, that whole holistic approach, you know, not just to elderly care, but also child care, you know, and care of the house and supporting everybody is much more prevalent in Asia. And I think that's something we're missing out on. So it's clear with these studies and looking at Asia that you've got a really good chance of prolonging your life if you follow these 6 steps, or these 6 indicating factors. These 6 major factors can really help. All right, so what are these 6? All right, let me show you. These 6 are mobility, All right. So obviously, if you do things like yoga from like starting in your 40s or 50s, or you're like very actively walking up mountains and things like that, that's going to help. If you're into dancing, you know, a lot of old people used to dance, but there's not many, I don't know what you call it, like dancing halls around anymore. But being physically active, you know, so yoga, other mobility activities, the name escapes me now, but like full body stuff, you know, so like really engaging the hips, the knees and the ankles. All right, because obviously when you get older, if you trip and fall because your eyesight or whatever else, you trip over something, if you trip and then you bang your knee, there's a high probability your ankle, your knee or your hip is going to get broken. Now, you hear about lots of people breaking their hip, they go into hospital, and it's a very sad story that many don't recover or get healthy, or they catch something else, or for some other reason they slowly demise starts from there. All right, so looking after your mobility of your hips, your knees, and your ankles, it is super, super important. They're the biggest key factor. All right, number 2, diet. Now, diet for people back in the 50s and the 60s were very different, all right? Because we didn't have as much processed foods and processed drinks, and the environmental factors were a little bit different, like pesticides and things like that. So that was very different back then. Hence why, you know, my grandparents are still going. My granddad's 98, and I think my grandmother's sort of like 94. So I've got good genes. But if we want to take control of that or minimize the risks, we need to look at our diet. So I would suggest minimizing red meat and minimizing processed food. So try cooking for yourself where possible, and maybe experiment a little bit. Maybe have a look at lentils or couscous and pastas. Look at other ways of getting some bulk of food inside you, but without the calories, to help minimize the amount of fat we take in. Because let's face it, as a Western nation, most of us, not all of us, but most of us have a few extra pounds. Maybe that's because we have a lot more mechanical things and a lot more cars and a lot less walking and physical jobs in this day and age. But yeah, that's a key thing, diet. Personally, I recommend going veggie. If you look at lots of the famous scientists of past, many of them were vegetarian. Anyway, right. Third one, hydration. Oh, you would not believe the amount of people in a care home that you're trying to force liquids down them because they forget. And then often they get urinary tract infection, a UTI, because they forget to drink. And even in our busy lives now, it's still hard to make us drink and get those fluids in. You know, we forget so much, or we end up consuming too much alcohol again, which is a diuretic and will make you feel make you feel thirsty. Yeah. So getting those fluids in, we say to the kids, don't we? We make the kids do it. So we got to drink more and cut down on the alcohol. The alcohol is never good for you. Maybe a tiny tipple at special occasions, but alcohol is not good. And cutting out the fizzy pops, you know, the monster drinks, the energy drinks, things like that. All right. Okay, so hydration and alcohol and soda pops, things like that. Right, okay. Number 4. Now, this again I saw not just in the studies, but it was echoed myself when I saw it in the care homes, was mental stimulation. So things like Sudoku or crossword, you know, or getting involved with the quiz on the TV, you know, using your brain. Ken Bruce, Radio 2, you know, and listening to the quiz he does, you know, at 10 o'clock. You know, these things keep our brains active. Even if we retire early or you know, try and stay involved with something that makes our brain busy, like learning a new language or getting involved in going on a holiday and trying to speak a little bit to the local people, making your brain work. you know, even at these later stages, really helps that grey matter, all right? So mental stimulation. Number 5, family connection. Well, I touched on this earlier, but yeah, in the care home, those that had family coming in, had something to look forward to, were hopeful and happy, that gave a different attitude to those residents, all right? They were so much more positive. They had pictures on their walls, they had photographs, they had grandchildren coming in and you could see the toys in the room of the elderly person for the children. It gave them so much more to live for. All right, connection with family, even if it has to be cousins and aunties and things like that. Just keeping a connection with some family really helps. I know they say blood's thicker than water, and sometimes that's true. All right, last one, number 6, community. Being part of the community, having friends, having social groups is absolutely, again, another big one to stay on top of. It's easy for people to drift away and, you know, maybe you get tired or you get ill and then you don't bother going out again. But being part of a community, you know, giving you that value, that self-worth, it really makes you feel worth living because you've got something to share, something to give, all right? So being part of a community, and even if you're just helping other people in the community, it's still being connected. That really helps your brain and your self-worth, as I just mentioned. That's really a big thing. So those 6, all right? Mobility, diet, hydration, mental stimulation, family, and community. All right, those 6. So that's it. If you've got any other questions, put them in the links below. I want to live till I'm old, like 95. Let me know how old you want to listen to, how long you want to live till. Tell me in the comments below, all right? How old do you want to be? 80, 90, 100? Or do you want to die young and go out in a blaze of glory? Let me know in the comments. Take care. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.